I'm Jim Bell. I'm the facility director at the College Park Community Center, and today I'm going to talk to you via STEAM about statistics, math, the influence they have on our lives. Statistics play an effect in just about everything we do. Define, statistics is a noun. The practice or science of collecting, analyzing data, numerical quantities that are large, especially for the purpose of inferring proportions in a whole from those in a representative sample. 4 areas of statistical data that we're going to look at today with respect to your life are education, government, sports, and business. And we'll talk about how those are going to intersect with each other and how those statistics can help you and show you how your life progresses. So for education, one of the things that we want to talk about is how grades are established and where you fit in the curve. So everybody knows that ABCDE is based on 10% and 10% of 100. And the premise here is that 100 is our highest grade. But what about the bell curve? And what statistic does that tell us? The great thing about the bell curve is if the highest grade is 85, now everybody gets 15 extra points. And so what the statistics teach us there is there was probably some methodology wrong in the teaching of the subject matter and or the creation of the questions. So if 85 is the highest, 75 is a B, 65 is a C, and so on. The way a standard bell curve should work, a percentage of people will be represented at the top of the scale, and they'll be represented similarly at the bottom. The majority of people, though, will fall in the middle. And that's what we call the standard bell curve. So one of the things about how that works in terms of grading is if I make 100 and I'm the only one who does, the bell curve that bears my name means nothing because nobody gets any extra points because I made 100. So somehow the questions and methodology were right. It's the grade and the work of everybody in the back that doesn't add up to that. And how do we check that out? We do that all through statistics. Another way that statistics enters our life in terms of education is how do we get into school? We take standardized tests. Those standardized tests are graded on a point per question basis. But the highest grade didn't get a perfect score. The highest grade on the SAT is the top 1 percentile. Occasionally somebody does get them all right. And what does that again mean to the bell curve? That's not good news for everybody trailing the leader. And so what statistics are aimed to do is to solve some problems with standardized testing so that everybody has an equal opportunity and to cure some flaws in the methodology of how the questions themselves are occasionally written. One of the things that you're going to see as you take tests, as you move through your life is that where you represent against everyone around you. So are you an average student? Are you an above average student? Might you be a below average student? And so statistics can tell us all that, but it can't predict how you're going to finish. That's what you get to affect. And that leads me into another thing I'm going to tell you about statistics is occasionally the statistics are wrong. Doesn't happen often, but it does. And so for example, when it comes to something like government and or elections, one of the things that you're going to see about elections is what we call margin of error. So when you see Vice President Biden's numbers versus President Trump's numbers, they might not add up to 100. And the reason for polling that way is it allows for a margin of error. Did somebody misunderstand the polling question? Was the polling question not accurate? Was it not recorded accurate? And so what you find out is standard margin of error for a poll like that is somewhere around 3 to 5%. So the total number of percentage points won't be 100 in that case. The other thing that's really important about polling numbers and statistics in and of themselves is the statistics representative of the whole, the people we're trying to decide if it speaks about all of America. So for instance, if we polled 1,000 people in Idaho, is that going to give us a representative of what everybody thinks across the whole country? And the answer is probably not. The people in Idaho don't necessarily feel, think, or operate the same way as in a congested city like New York, for example. And so you need a certain number of participants to get a representative sample, keyword representative, and you need that representative sample to be diverse and account for a lot of factors. And how do you decide that? It's all done statistically. So you may have a statistical average of only 2,000 people that's representative of 2 million people. But if you chose the people right, if the questions are written correctly, you can get a pretty good approximation of how that is going to turn out with respect to 2 million. So think about that. 1,998 people weren't asked the question, but 2,000 gave us a pretty representative sample of what they're all thinking at the same time. That is the beauty of statistics. Are they always right? Can they be manipulated? 100%. And that's why you always have to ask questions about how the statistics, how the survey, how the polling process were all derived at. Does it come out wrong occasionally? That's what that margin of error thing's about. And the thing about margin of error that you have to remember is it is a fluctuating thing based on the size of the sample. Nothing more important than you exercising your right to vote and you going to vote, no matter what you hear based on the polls or anything else. Because in this country, we count the votes. We don't use statistical representations to get to where we want to be. So remember, you have to go be counted. And so that brings us into another thing that we're going to talk about, statistical validity of the census. So how does the census play a role in our lives? Wow. Everything from where we're going to build the next bridge to whether or not we're going to build a new school, all is tied into the census. Here's another little known fact. Money to support the school system is also derived from the census. Again, this is why it's important to fill out the census information and to be counted. Because the federal government allocates money to the state and local government based on those volumes and based on those numbers. And how do they get to those numbers? Statistical data analysis. So let's shift gears and go to sports. I'm a great basketball player. The camera doesn't do me justice. I'm going to play a lot bigger than I am. So if I'm scoring half my baskets from 5 feet, they're worth 2 points apiece. 10 shots, I make 5, I scored 10 points. Statistically, though, I only have to make 3 from the three-point line out of 10 and shoot 30% to get to 9. So how did statistics play a part in that? If I'm coaching and there's a player on the opponent's team who shoots 50% from the three-point line, he deserves my attention. He deserves specific time in practice, and my job is to make him come inside the three-point line to do what he's not good at, score from where I'm better inside the lane. Now conversely, can I pack the lane and make the same team shoot threes if they are shooting 15% from the three-point line? Absolutely. What else do statistics tell me? They tell me to foul Shaquille O'Neal every chance I get, because God love him, he can't shoot free throws. Now, if Shaquille gets to 75%, the idea of fouling him diminishes, and that's all derived at by statistics. But if Shaquille's going to shoot 60% from the line, that's where I want him to go. I want him to go to the line and shoot 60% so I can get the ball back and get 3 at the other end. There is a whole business career path now in analytics all across the sports spectrum, and it all has to do with mining data, predicting where somebody's going to be, how they're going to function, and then making your defense against that. So look at the World Series. Note when they shift the infield, that's done because that player shows a proclivity for hitting to that side of the infield at a high enough percentage that it's worth the risk to leave the other side of the field empty. Does it go backfire against that team occasionally? Absolutely. But the statistics, the math say that player will ground into more outs if we move more players to field the ball on that side. And that's where we're going in sports. It's ironic, as statistics are more and more refined and we get better at using them and analyzing them, what we're also getting at is that maybe we need to change the rules because the game doesn't look like it used to. And so should I be able to hack Shaq and send him to the line? Or should I be able to put everybody between second and first defensively? All things to be determined later, but for right now, statistics makes us think differently and play the game differently in search of a really positive outcome. And so the outcome that we will look at may be the same thing in business. So as we look at business practices and the function of statistics, one of the things that we want to think about is, statistically, what do the numbers say about the past and the future? Take the world of COVID that we live in now. McDonald's is doing about the same amount of business as they were before COVID. The main difference is the majority of it is delivery and drive-through. So what do statistics tell McDonald's in the business world right now? We need more people to prepare food so we can get the food out faster than we need to be worried about cleaning up inside and how we're setting up our restaurants. So one of the things we look at with predictive analysis in the business world is, what do we think is going to happen based on the statistics during COVID for how a business operates and where their revenue comes from versus how it'll be post-COVID? So the question to you is, will you go sit in McDonald's anytime soon and eat your meal? Or will you continue just to drive through and or get it delivered? The ramifications of that thought process are how we build future McDonald's. What we're trying to do is what's called throughput. We're trying to get the customer food faster, hotter, and quicker with as minimal touch points as possible so that they can be gone and happy and we can make the line move faster. Chick-fil-A is amazingly efficient at this. When you see someone in the parking lot in the tablet format, taking your menu item and putting through your order, it's because the line moves 25% faster. So let's look at the math real quick. Let's say Chick-fil-A makes $10,000 on a daily basis. There's a line around the Chick-fil-A because we all love that sandwich. If I can make the line move 25% faster, I have the possibility of now making $12,500 worth of revenue a day. Times 6, because Chick-fil-A is closed, right? Is an extra $15,000 a week. So you've gotten your Sunday money by making the line move faster, and Chick-fil-A can afford to be closed on Sunday. It's kind of funny how that works out, right? And so the predictive analysis allows them to put resources in places to give the customer a quality experience, and it's all derived from statistics. So for everybody you see in the parking lot, managing the store, there's another person in corporate. All they're looking at are streams of data. The same thing's also true for the other aspects that we've previously talked about. There are gentlemen, ladies, who spend all their time looking at the shot chart for last night's opponent and figuring out where we weren't as good, and they use data analysis and statistics to get to that point. There's another group of people that are advanced scouting games, and they're doing the same analysis so the coach knows how to set the defense for this week. The same thing's true. An urban planner bases the plan for the new road construction, bridges, based on the data from the census of where we're going as a population. Are we moving out of the city? Are we moving back into the city? Do we need to increase metro transit, mass transit to avoid traffic? All done by data analytics. Back to the education factor, what should you be thinking about math-wise? You should be looking at all of the basic math and some computer math, algorithm, so how you can get to predictive quantities and qualities. So in summary, why is understanding math and stats so important? They connect us with everything that we do. If you have questions for us, we hope that you've enjoyed this math statistical influence on your life, and we want you to stay tuned for more activities and projects in STEAMFest and activities in November. Visit pgparks.com to register for the upcoming November STEAM events and take our STEAMFest survey. Thanks again.